Carrots naturally contain a blend of sugar, starch and fiber. So if you harvest your carrots in the warmer months, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Country Moro here. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I start my carrots from seed to harvest. Also, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to get the best flavors out of your carrots. One of the most important rules in planting carrot for the best harvest is timing. You want to plant your carrot if you're in a subtropical or tropical climate when the time is still a bit warm so that they can germinate fast enough. However, you still want to time them so that you will be harvesting your carrots in the cooler time or the coolest time in your location. So why you would want to do that is because carrots naturally contain a blend of sugar, starch and fiber. So if you harvest your carrots in the warmer months, they're going to be starchy and fibrous. If you harvest your carrots in the cooler month, then they will be more flavorful. So you will get a better burst of sugar and flavors in your carrots. So to get the best flavors out of your carrots, we have to have them ready to be harvested in the coolest month or the coolest time of year in whatever location you're living in. So let's go ahead now and start preparing to put our carrots in ground. And carrots are very tricky, so as we go along, I'll just explain to you guys. So here I have my bed already prepared with soil, compost and a bit of rabbit manure in it. I'm just going to go ahead and break down some of these lumps to powder size because carrot seed, they're tiny and they don't like to be covered deeply. So when you're sowing your carrots, you want to keep them as close as possible to the surface. So I'm just loosening the dirt that I have in this bed right here. This bed is loose enough. Ensure whatever container you're putting your carrots in, whether it be a raised bed, in ground, or even a fabric container, a grow bag, ensure that the soil is loose in it so that the carrots can grow properly. Remember, they're a root crop and you don't want them to be competing with anything to go down into the ground. So next we're going to take our hands and we're going to pat the soil down firmly. So the reason why we're doing this, carrot seeds, they're notorious for their slow and potentially patchy germination rate. Some carrot seeds can take up to 3 weeks to germinate. So that's why I'm telling you guys that if you can plant them in the warmer month, the end of summer here, it will be best for you to get them to germinate fast and have them going. And for these Denver's 126 half-long carrots, they grow about 7 inches, so they're good for most backyard gardeners. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to pour the carrot seed in one hand, and then I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to just draw a line across the bed. So right down in this line, I'm just going to sprinkle some carrot seeds across. And I'm going to be sprinkling more than what I actually need because of the poor germination rate of carrots. So those are in, and I'm going to go about 2 inches away from it. I was going to say 1.5 inches, but I'm going about 2 inches beside it. And then I'm just going to put some more in it. After these carrots germinate and start growing, then I can go ahead and thin them out if they're too thick. If they're not too thick, I still can go ahead and sow more seed. So I'm just lightly putting back the dirt or putting back the soil over these seeds that we have here. Most carrot variety, they're going to take between 60 to 90 days from seed to maturity. You can even leave your carrots in a bit longer. They won't spoil on you in ground, and then they will be sweeter if you do leave them to get those cooler temperatures that should be coming in your winter months. However, for me, these are going to be out before winter, and I'll have a different set in ground by then. So these are going to really be my fall harvest and not my winter harvest. But it's good to put them in now. As I said, the time is warm, so the seeds, they may take about 7 to 10 days to germinate when you do them like this, because the time is much warmer. If you're going to be sowing them in the fall months, then they can take up to 3 weeks to germinate. Don't give up if you sow your carrot seeds and only half of them germinate. That's how it is with carrots. And carrots, they really love temperatures between 55 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit. However, they can do well in lower temperatures. And some gardeners in cooler climates, they can plant carrots year-round, because carrots can handle temperatures down to about 0 degrees Fahrenheit. This carrot, I'll be trying this variety for the first time. It's called the Manpukajai. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correct. However, that's what I see here. And I'm going to be planting this over in this bed. These are some very long carrots, which they say the roots can reach over 2 feet in length. But I'm not looking forward to that. I'm just looking forward to getting some very big carrots for my harvesting season this fall. But I'm going to be putting them in this next grow bed over here. So this next bed here is where I'm going to be putting the Manpukajai, and I'm not going to be saying that again because I'm not sure if that's the way it is pronounced. So I'm just going to shuffle the surface of the bed, and then I'm just going to pat it so that it's firm. Remember, we don't want the seeds to be going too deep. So we're just going to pat it in. And for this bed, we're only going to be putting in this variety in this bed because they grow real deep and we don't want any interference. So again, I'm going to just take my finger and just make a line across, not too deep. And I'm just going to make a few lines across, about 2 inches apart, guys. Your carrot don't need too much space. They need about 1.5 inches per carrot. And these rows are 2 inches apart. So that is more than enough. And I'm just sprinkling the seeds all the way through these rows. So now we have the seeds in all these rows. I'm just going to take my hand and just lightly shadow it across the bed and cover them. If we're even 60% successful with the germination rate in these beds, what I'll do, I'll just come through and thin them out. So once the plant is in that growth phase and they're about maybe 3-4 inches tall, I'll just come in and thin them out a bit for the carrots not to be competing. They will compete as root crops, but the competition that they're going to be having as root crop is more for space to go down and to expand. That's the competition that your root crops have. Root crops, or most crops in general, do not compete for nutrients underground. Crops normally compete for sunlight. Yes guys, as I was saying, most root plants, they compete for space underground. They do not compete for nutrients. So when you have your carrots, your potatoes, and all those other root crops, they do not compete for nutrients underground. They compete for sunlight. Hence why you see most plants, when they're shaded, when they're being shaded by a taller plant, they tend to grow towards the sunlight. Or if you even have a plant close to your house or a building, it tends to grow away towards the sun. Plants compete for sunlight more than how they compete for nutrients in the soil. Most times, if you have nutrients in your soil and it is readily available, your plants will just use it up when they need it. They won't compete for nutrients. They compete for sunlight on a daily basis. So now that we're finished sowing our carrot seeds, we don't want to go in with heavy pressure water power. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to be using this jug to feed them, just to wet them. If you're going with too much pressure, you're going to be moving the seeds around, and you don't want that. You want them to stay in place and germinate where you put them. You also don't want to be drowning out your carrot seed with water. You just want to keep the first inch of soil moist for the first maybe 15 or 16 days, after which, after germination, you can back off a bit and start watering them as needed. If you're having rain, you don't need to go through and do this, but if the time is dry, don't allow your carrot seeds to go dry. They're very finicky, so you want to keep them moist until germination. Also, if you have a garden hose, you can put it on mist and you can go over them and mist them. Guys, the next thing about carrots, they don't like to be transplanted. So if you're going to be planting your carrots, ensure you just direct sow them. The next thing whilst I'm here, fall is one of the best times to grow carrots for gardeners in a tropical or subtropical climate, because we have a longer cool period during our fall time, because that lasts all the way from about October to about February or April for some of us. If we should go ahead and start our carrot seeds in our winter months, or so-called winter months, in a tropical or subtropical climate, what will happen is those seeds, they're going to take longer to germinate, and when they do germinate and come about, those carrots are going to be mature and ready to harvest closer to our summer months. And remember, I mentioned earlier that you get a better flavor in your carrot when you harvest them in the cooler period. So that is why fall is the best time for us in a tropical and subtropical climate to plant carrots. For people in cooler weather, they can plant carrots year round, most of them. Carrots don't like high nitrogen fertilizer. Carrots do not like high nitrogen fertilizer. So when you're going for your fertilizers for your carrots, see if you can go with more organic fertilizers. If you can get manure of any sort, whether it be rabbit manure like what I'm using, horse manure, chicken manure that has been aired out, or even cow manure. What too much nitrogen does for carrots or most of your root crops, it causes a lot of leaf growth and then not a lot of root growth. And remember, we're not planting the carrots for the leaf, we're planting it to get the root, the carrot itself, the food from the ground. So it's best to use a fertilizer that is low in nitrogen. If you're going to be using rabbit urine or any form of urine on your carrots, remember, they're not going to store well because they're going to have ring, and the high nitrogen in urine is also going to cause a lot of leafy growth. So be careful how you go in and feed your carrots. They don't need a lot of feeding. So just go with a fertilizer that is low in nitrogen, and don't be fooled by any fertilizer that says carrot fertilizer. There's no such thing as a carrot fertilizer. If you're planting tomato, guys, don't go out there and buy any fertilizer that is marked tomato fertilizer. That is just a marketing trick. All we have fertilizers with different NPK levels and different type of nutrients in them. That is all. But there is no such thing as a specific fertilizer for a specific plant. Trust me on that one. That's gonna be it from Country Morrow. God bless you all. See you in the next one. Happy gardening. Cheers.